What if I told you 3 ordinary U.S. coins could hide an extraordinary story? A 1986 Jefferson Nickel, worn and quiet, starts this mystery. Next comes a humble 1986 Lincoln 1 cent, the coin everyone ignores. Then a 2002 Roosevelt Dime slips in, small but suspiciously precise. Individually, they look common, almost boring. Together, they form a timeline collectors rarely connect. These coins pass through millions of hands without anyone stopping. But one detail links them across decades. It's not the metal, not the mint mark, not the face value. It's the moment in history each one silently witnessed. Economic shifts, mint changes, and mistakes hiding in plain sight. The Jefferson Nickel reflects an era of quiet circulation. The Lincoln cent captures inflation, survival, and mass production. The Roosevelt Dime marks a modern turn most people missed. Collectors call them common, but common doesn't mean worthless. One tiny variation can change everything. Most people spend these coins without a second thought. A few stop, look closer, and discover the pattern. That's where this story flips from pocket change to possibility. Stay till the end because one of these coins might already be in your hand. History of the Jefferson Nickel 1986 is a journey through American coinage during a period of economic transition, political shifts, and changes in the United States Mint. As the nation moved deeper into the 1980s, the Jefferson Nickel continued its long run as one of the most familiar coins in circulation, first introduced in 1938. The design by Felix Schlag had already been used for nearly 5 decades by 1986, and this year serves as an important chapter in the evolution of the series. To understand the 1986 Jefferson Nickel, it is important to recognize the historical context of the mid-1980s. The United States economy was recovering from inflation and recession earlier in the decade, and the mint was working to maintain stable production levels for circulating coins. The nickel denomination had continued its consistent use of the copper-nickel alloy, consisting of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a composition that had remained unchanged since World War II, after the special wartime alloy period ended in 1946. The 1986 Jefferson Nickel was struck at 2 major mints, Philadelphia and Denver, with no proof nickels made that year at San Francisco, since the San Francisco Mint was focused primarily on proof coinage and commemoratives during the 1980s. The Philadelphia Mint produced hundreds of millions of 1986 nickels, and the Denver Mint also struck a massive quantity, ensuring that the coin would be widely available in circulation. The absence of a mint mark on Philadelphia coins and the D on Denver issues makes them easy to identify. For collectors, the coin continued to feature the classic Jefferson portrait on the obverse, a design that reflected the nation's founding principles and the legacy of Thomas Jefferson, known for his contributions to American democracy, his role in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence, and his focus on education, liberty, and governance. The reverse design, displaying Monticello Jefferson's Virginia home, symbolized stability and national heritage during a period of modernization in the United States. The 1986 nickel also reflects the mint's increasing improvements in strike quality compared to earlier decades, although some weaknesses in Steps detail on Monticello still appeared depending on die wear and striking pressure. Full Steps examples from 1986, especially those with 5 or 6 fully defined steps, remain popular among collectors in the modern numismatic market because they represent precision and strong die maintenance over time. As coin grading services grew in popularity during the 1980s and 1990s, collectors began paying closer attention to strike differences, mint luster, and die varieties on circulating coinage. The 1986 nickel benefited from this new wave of numismatic interest, and several minor die varieties, such as die cracks, die breaks, and small repunched mint marks found on Denver coins, created additional areas of study. Although not as dramatic as varieties seen in earlier dates, these features still add historical value to the year's production, looking beyond the technical aspects. The 1986 Jefferson Nickel also stands as a reflection of American life during the decade. a time defined by technological optimism, cultural shifts, and a renewed sense of national pride. Coinage circulation was strong, consumer spending was rising, and the mint continued producing large quantities of coins to keep up with economic activity. Everyday Americans encountered the 1986 nickel in stores, vending machines, and banks, connecting this small coin to millions of daily transactions across the country. The nickel's durability made it a stable part of the currency system, and its long-running design allowed generations of Americans to feel familiar with its appearance. While other denominations experienced design updates or commemorative releases, the Jefferson nickel remained unchanged. Offering a sense of continuity by the late 1980s, discussions about future design changes were gradually growing among collectors. But the classic Schlag portrait continued to dominate the series until updates arrived in the early 21st century for a 2-hour narration. The story expands even further by covering the manufacturing process used at the U.S. Mint during this period, including details about blank production, annealing, upsetting the role of high-speed coining presses, and quality control measures that ensured uniformity in the billions of coins struck annually. The narration can also explore how coins were bagged, boxed, and shipped across the nation, feeding into the Federal Reserve Network and supplying banks in every state. Another important topic is the place of the 1986 nickel within the wider Jefferson series. Collectors today value mint state examples with strong luster-clean surfaces and sharp steps, as well as any examples displaying unusual die characteristics. For beginners, the 1986 nickel serves as an accessible entry point into collecting, since it is affordable, yet offers opportunities to study strike-quality mint practices and die varieties. The coin holds a special place for those who grew up during the 1980s, connecting memories of childhood spending, school lunches, bus fares, and everyday life with the coins they handled. The long-standing design creates a powerful sense of nostalgia, which enhances the historical significance of the 1986 issue. The story of this coin also ties into the legacy of Felix Schlag, whose original 1938 design was selected during a public competition. His artistic vision endured for decades, and the 1986 issue stands as part of that remarkable continuity. The design originally included more detailed Monticello perspectives that were later modified and simplified for engraving practicality, and these features remained present on the 1986 strike, giving it historical artistic weight in addition to circulating coinage. The 1986 nickel plays a part in the wider numismatic culture of the era, with coin shows, price guides, and collector magazines, all highlighting the growing interest in modern coin collection, while earlier dates attracted more major attention. Modern circulating coins, such as the 1986 nickel, helped introduce new generations to the hobby, bridging the gap between everyday money and historical study. In exploring the 2-hour narration, the story continues by diving deeper into the function of the nickel within the U.S. economy, examining how the buying power of 5 cents changed over time, how inflation shaped consumer habits, and how coins like the 1986 nickel represented economic resilience as Americans adapted to rising technology, expanded media, and changing cultural landscapes. The nickel remained a reliable and recognizable symbol of American identity. Ultimately, the Jefferson Nickel 1986 is more than just a coin. It is a snapshot of American history, a product of mid-80s minting technology, a link to the legacy of Thomas Jefferson, and a continuation of an iconic design that endured for generations. This year stands at the intersection of numismatic interest, national culture, and everyday life, making the 1986 Jefferson Nickel a meaningful part of the broader history of U.S. coinage. The story of the 2002 Lincoln Cent begins with the long legacy of the Lincoln Cent series, which first appeared in 1909 as a tribute to Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. The design created by Victor David Brenner became one of the most familiar images in American coinage history, and by the time 2002 arrived, the coin had already been in circulation for more than 90 years, carrying with it the evolving story of American minting technology, political change, and economic adjustment. Through the decades, the Lincoln cent had undergone subtle transformations, including modifications to Brenner's initials, updates to the relief, and changes in its composition as economic realities shifted. In 1982, the United States Mint made one of the most significant changes in the history of the Lincoln cent by moving from a bronze alloy to a copper-plated zinc planchet. This shift continued through the year 2002, so every 2002 Lincoln cent was struck on a core of zinc coated, with a thin layer of copper giving the coin the appearance of traditional copper while dramatically reducing production costs. By the early 2000s, the cent had already become one of the United States Mint's most frequently produced denominations, and the Mint used increasingly modern coinage presses and high-speed quality control procedures to create the billions of Lincoln cents needed for daily commerce across the nation. The year 2002 sits at an interesting moment in the series. It was part of the long-running memorial reverse era, which had begun in 1959 in honor of the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Frank Gasparo's design of the Lincoln Memorial stood on the reverse of the coin for 50 years, and the 2002 issue represents one of the final chapters in that half-century run. Before the redesign of 2010 and before the 2009 bicentennial reverses, the 2002 coin continues the familiar appearance of Lincoln on the obverse and the memorial on the reverse, connecting the coin to a long era of stability in American numismatics. The obverse portrait crafted from Brenner's original design shows Lincoln facing right with careful detailing of his hair, cheekbones, and beard. Although the design traces back to 1909, it has been subtly sharpened or adjusted through various hub changes over the decades, yet its essence has remained remarkably faithful to Brenner's artistic vision. The inscriptions include the national motto, the date 2002, and the mint mark for the Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco mints. Each mint played a role in producing the 2002 coins, with Philadelphia and Denver striking circulation pieces, while San Francisco struck the proof coins for collectors using polished dies and specially prepared planchets to create sharp mirrored surfaces and frosted devices. The reverse of the coin in 2002 continues Gasparo's monument-inspired artwork, which highlights the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. This design is notable because the tiny statue of Lincoln visible between the central pillars is one of the smallest and most detailed depictions of a person ever placed on circulating American coinage. The reverse inscriptions include United States of America, E pluribus unum, and the denomination 1 cent. The memorial design served as a national symbol on billions of coins for generations of Americans, and by 2002 it had become deeply familiar to collectors and everyday users alike. In 2002, the Mint produced the Lincoln cent, during a time when discussions about discontinuing the cent were beginning to gain public attention. Rising production costs, inflation, and the ever-growing number of cents minted each year fueled debates among economists and lawmakers. Yet despite these discussions, the demand for the coin remained high, and billions of 2002 cents entered circulation, making the date one of the more common issues of the early 21st century. Even so, collectors pay attention to subtle variations, including die states, strike strength, and the overall quality of individual coins. Some 2002 cents show strong strikes with crisp details, while others reveal softer impressions resulting from die wear or high production rates. The proof cents of 2002 are especially valued for their beauty and craftsmanship. Struck at the San Francisco Mint, these coins feature deep reflective fields and sharp frosted images created through a special minting process that involves multiple strikes under carefully controlled pressure. The quality of the proof sets of the early 2000s is widely regarded as excellent, and many collectors consider the 2002 proof Lincoln cent an essential part of a modern collection representing both the artistry and precision of the Mint's craftsmanship during this period. Another point of interest in the story of the 2002 Lincoln cent is its place within a rapidly changing world of minting technology. By this time, the Mint had fully integrated advanced computer engraving tools, high-speed die-making systems, and improved quality control methods, allowing for more consistent coinage than ever before. This era marks a shift between traditional engraving techniques and the modern digital age of numismatic production, making the 2002 cent part of a transitional moment in coin design and manufacturing history. The economic context of 2002 also influenced the coin's production. The United States was emerging from the late 1990s economic boom and adjusting to the early 2000s recession, but the demand for circulating coinage remained steady. The cent continued to play a central role in everyday transactions, even as electronic payments grew more common. Its wide use in retail cash transactions, vending machines, and banking systems ensured that billions of new cents, including those dated 2002, were needed to maintain an adequate supply for commerce. Collectors today view the 2002 Lincoln cent as a modern yet historically significant piece. It sits just 7 years before the end of the memorial reverse design and represents a stable, calm period in the series, before the cent underwent dramatic changes beginning with the 2009 bicentennial program. The 2002 issue holds a place in the continuous timeline of the Lincoln cent, reflecting the Mint's ongoing tradition of honoring Abraham Lincoln while also adapting to new technology, new economic conditions, and changing national conversations about the future of coinage. As a whole, the 2002 Lincoln cent embodies the durability of Brenner's and Gasparo's designs, the evolution of minting methods, and the lasting importance of the cent in American culture and commerce. The story of this coin is not only the story of a single year, but also the reflection of nearly a century of artistic heritage and the movement of the United States Mint toward a new era of innovative production techniques, making the 2002 Lincoln cent a meaningful chapter in the long and ever-unfolding history of America's most familiar coin. The 2002 Lincoln cent also deserves attention for the way it reflects the Mint's philosophy during the early 21st century, as the nation prepared for major coinage changes that would arrive later in the decade. During this time, the Mint focused heavily on efficiency and consistency while still preserving the long-standing artistic traditions that collectors valued. The 2002 cent therefore becomes part of a bridge between the classic era of American coins and the modern digital era in which computer modeling and laser engraving would soon reshape the way dies were made and designs were refined. One of the lesser-known aspects of the 2002 Lincoln cent story involves the preparation of the dies themselves before a die could strike. A single 2002 cent, it went through a detailed creation process beginning with a master hub engraved from digital data derived from earlier models. This master hub produced working hubs which then created thousands of individual dies needed for mass production. By this period, the Mint relied on improved digital scanning and reduction techniques to ensure greater uniformity in the design, so a 2002 cent struck in Denver matched almost perfectly with one from Philadelphia. This marked a major advancement when compared to earlier decades like the 1940s or 1950s, when die production was more manual and inconsistencies were more common. An interesting chapter in the history of any modern Lincoln cent involves error coins and varieties. Even though the 2002 Lincoln cent is considered a high-quality mass-produced issue, the sheer quantity of coins struck meant that some errors naturally occurred. The story of the 1971 Roosevelt Dime begins long before the coin itself was minted, because to understand the significance of the 1971 issue, we must go back to the origins of the Roosevelt Dime in 1946, when the United States chose to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had led the nation through both the Great Depression and World War II, and who had become a symbol of strength, perseverance, and leadership for the American people. The dime was selected For this tribute, because of Roosevelt's close association with the fight against polio and the March of Dimes, a national effort that raised money for research treatment and support for millions of affected children. As the years passed, the Roosevelt dime became one of the most stable and unchanged coins in American circulation, retaining its familiar portrait of Roosevelt, designed by John R. Sinnock, and its simple reverse, featuring a torch symbolizing liberty flanked by olive and oak branches, representing peace and strength. By the time the year 1971 arrived, the United States Mint had already undergone major changes in coinage composition due to rising silver prices in the early 1960s. The Coinage Act of 1965 had eliminated silver from the dime and quarter and reduced it drastically in the half dollar, marking the beginning of a new era of clad coinage. The 1971 Roosevelt dime continued this composition, using a copper core bonded between outer layers of cupronickel, giving it durability and resistance to wear, which was essential for heavy circulation in a rapidly growing economy. The early 1970s were a period of social transition, economic challenges, and ongoing political tensions in the United States, and yet coinage remained a silent witness to everyday life, reflecting the nation's ability to adapt to changing times. When analyzing the year 1971 specifically, it holds a quiet but important place in dime history because it was part of a decade where changes in minting technology, quality control, and production volumes shaped the coins Americans used daily. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced the 1971 dime, did so without a mint mark, as was tradition before the revival of the P mint mark. Decades later, millions of these coins entered circulation as part of the country's everyday financial system, but despite their common appearance, collectors have grown increasingly interested in subtle varieties, minting errors, and condition-based rarities that give the 1971 dime more character than its simple design suggests. During this period, the mint was focused on improving the efficiency of coin production due to an increasing demand for circulating coinage driven by population growth, business expansion, and economic activity. The machinery used at the time produced strong, consistent strikes, but variations still occurred, leading to a range of minor yet intriguing collectible differences, such as off-center strikes, die cracks, weak strikes, and occasional planchet errors. Every one of these pieces tells a story about the physical process of creating currency, where thousands of tons of pressure produced tiny discs of metal that would travel through hands' pockets, registers, banks, and businesses all across America. In 1971, the dime served as more than just a 10-cent piece. It represented the stability of the American monetary system at a time when the country was about to face major economic shifts, including stagflation, rising inflation rates, and the eventual end of the Bretton Woods system. President Richard Nixon would soon announce policies that dramatically shifted the country's economic direction, and while these large political and financial decisions were unfolding, the humble dime continued its daily work unnoticed by most but essential for commerce, from buying newspapers and candy to paying transit fares or contributing to vending machines. The coin was a small but constant presence in American life. As collectors look back at the 1971 Roosevelt dime, they also consider the broader role of the series in U.S. coinage history. The Roosevelt dime had now been in circulation for 25 years and had become one of the most familiar coins to Americans. Its design had remained unchanged, a testament to its acceptance and functionality. The 1971 issue served as a mid-era example of how the series transitioned from silver to clad and how modern minting shaped the coins of the late 20th century. Although not rare in general circulation, high-grade examples are prized by collectors because copper-nickel-clad coins from this era often show heavy wear and lack the sharp details found in coins that were preserved early. Furthermore, the 1971 dime helps illustrate how the mint balanced tradition with modernization. The iconic portrait of Roosevelt continued to honor a beloved leader, while the updated metal composition reflected the economic realities of a post-silver currency world, collectors studying the coin recognize that while it may not carry the mystique of key dates or rare varieties, it is a necessary chapter in the long-running narrative of American dimes, a coin that quietly documented the nation's evolving financial landscape. As the historical story expands deeper into the context surrounding the coin, we can reflect on the mint's internal developments during this era. The early 1970s saw improved die-making techniques better, steel alloys for striking tools, and enhanced quality checks. Although perfect consistency was still impossible. These technological shifts made the 1971 Roosevelt Dime part of a larger evolution in American numismatics. The coin also represents a time before major design changes swept through U.S. coinage in later decades, making it a snapshot of mid-century style and stability. In the final reflection, the 1971 Roosevelt Dime stands as a reminder of how everyday objects can carry long histories and deep national meaning. A simple coin passed from person to person carries with it the legacy of a president, the transformation of U.S. currency, the economic pressures of a shifting era, and the craftsmanship of the mint that produced it. Collectors and historians continue to examine these coins, not because they are rare, but because they are rich in context, offering insight into the nation's past and into the continuous story of American money, from silver to clad, from wartime leadership to modern economic realities, and from humble circulation pieces to objects of historical appreciation. As we explore further into the historical landscape surrounding the 1971 Roosevelt Dime, it becomes clear that this small piece of currency was shaped not only by the mint that produced it, but also by the economic and cultural environment of early 1970s America. The United States was experiencing major shifts influenced by political decisions, global events, and technological advancements, and every coin minted during this time indirectly reflects those conditions. The year 1971 was especially significant because it marked the moment when the United States moved further away from the gold standard, culminating in President Richard Nixon's decision to suspend the direct convertibility of the dollar into gold. This event, known as the Nixon shock, deeply affected the international monetary system as the value of the dollar shifted to a more flexible system determined by global markets. Although the dime itself was no longer tied to precious metal, its production and usage were still affected by broader changes in the financial world. Coins like the 1971 Roosevelt Dime symbolized the transition from a metal-backed currency era into a modern fiat currency system. At the same time, the mint was focused on producing enough coinage to keep up with national demand, as the American economy relied heavily on physical cash for daily transactions. Credit cards were still in their early stages, and electronic payments were decades away, which meant that coins like the dime played an important role in nearly every financial interaction. Whether people were buying postage, paying telephone booth charges, or using vending machines, the dime was essential and its reliability mattered. With millions of transactions occurring every day, the mint needed to ensure that production was efficient, consistent, and capable of supporting a nation growing in both population and consumer activity. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced the 1971 Roosevelt Dime, faced the challenge of maintaining high volumes and strong quality control while adapting to new machinery and refining production processes. The technology used during this period was becoming more advanced than the equipment of the 1950s and early 1960s, but it still required expert operators, careful oversight, and constant adjustment. Many of the errors that collectors search for today, such as off-center strikes, die breaks, clipped planchets, and weak strikes, were the natural byproducts of this type of mass production. Each error, though unintentional, represents a unique moment in the minting process and adds a layer of character to the 1971 dime, making it more than just a common circulation coin.